This company has been a great investor in journalism, a greater investor in media in general, and it's something that we believe very strongly in. And clearly, certain activities did not live up to those standards. And that's a matter of great regret, for me personally and for the company.
And for your father, you've obviously talked to him about this. Is he personally ashamed of what's happened?
I think he was very clear in a comment made yesterday, actually, that, these allegations are shocking and hugely regrettable. And this is the way that we all feel inside the company, not least of which the many, many journalists around the world who work at News Corporation, who really, really believe in what they do and work very, very hard to do a good job for their readers.
When this started, I had heard rumors that phone hacking was rife. Rebecca Brooks was a journalist who came through the bowels of your organization. She was the editor of the News of the World when a lot of this was going on. She was paying out large sums of money, or the newspaper was, to the people who were conducting some of these activities. Is it really even vaguely conceivable that she and many others didn't know what was going on, that this hacking was rife everywhere?
Rebecca and I are absolutely committed, and this company is absolutely committed to doing the right thing. And what that means is about cooperating and working fully with the police investigations into those alleged practices and into those activities. It's also about making sure that we're putting in place the processes, that we understand what happened, and we have processes in place and a process in place to actually make the thing, not to make sure that these things don't happen again.
I understand that, but my question was, is it really conceivable? You're asking people, you're looking people in the eye and saying, look, she and others in her position did not know. You were paying out enormous sums of money to these people, and what I'm saying is that really conceivable?
Listen, I am satisfied that Rebecca, her leadership of this business, and her standard of ethics and her standard of conduct throughout her career are very good. And I think what she's shown and what we have shown with our actions around transparently and proactively working with the police, recall, it's the process of information discovery that we went through proactively and voluntarily that actually started these investigations to be opened again by the police earlier this year. It's the proactive and transparent handing over of information to the police to aid them in their inquiries around payment to police and things like that, that actually she has led and this company has led. And I'm very confident that those actions show that we're doing the right thing. And we're committed to doing the right thing.
But she seemed to admit to a select committee that you had paid police officers with Andy Coulson. We now know that, as I understand it, you have paid police officers. Everyone believed at the time that phone hacking was rife. Can I just push you on the answer to this question? On her and other senior executives, are you really saying that they did not know of these activities within their own newsrooms for which you were spending a great deal of money?
I cannot comment, as you know, on specific individuals that are subject of a criminal investigation.
This is your chief executive I'm talking about here.
But you said some other individuals, right? So let me just make sure that that's clear, that I cannot comment on that. You understand that.
Yes.
With respect to Mrs. Brooks, with respect to Rebecca, I am satisfied that she neither had knowledge of nor directed those activities.
When Clive Goodman was arrested, what did you ask all your executives about those activities, and what did they say?
Well, as you know, when Clive Goodman was arrested in those areas, I was actually not here, so I didn't ask them anything. The company undertook a process with the police at that time that we now know, after a very thorough process of discovery and of really opening all of that up again internally, we now know, and we've said, that that process at that time was not complete. And actually, new things have come to light, new allegations and new information has emerged that has convinced us that this is a new set of things that we were dealing with. And in fact, earlier this year, we unreservedly apologized to victims of these voicemail intercepts. We admitted and accepted liability in these civil cases. And we're now in a process with an independent former judge who's actually working through how do we deal with all of those cases of
that,
invasion of privacy.
In the modern era, there was a period when you paid out very large sums of money to some people who had been hacked, and the impression that a lot of people had is that you embarked on a sustained and deliberate cover-up. This is the accusation that is made against you, because you knew how terrible it was and you didn't want it to come out.
There was a particular settlement that I authorized, and I've said was made with information that was incomplete. I acted on the advice of executives and lawyers with incomplete investigation, and that's a matter of real regret for me personally. Previous to that, an investigation by the police had been conducted, and the company had cooperated with that. We now know that that investigation was inadequate, and that is a matter of profound regret as well. Today, what we're saying is we've been redoing all of that and doing new work as well, which is all about working fundamentally with the important work the police are doing in their 2 investigations into practices, both in terms of voicemail intercepts as well as payments to police. And we now know that the practices that are being discussed, that we're talking about here, were such that we fundamentally breached a trust with our readers. And that's why we're taking this action with the News of the World today.
I just want to be clear. You are absolutely categoric, looking the public in the eye and saying you knew nothing of the extent of phone hacking within your newspaper group. Until very recently, you were simply unaware. At the point when you were convinced that you were saying that it was confined to Goodman and Co., you were absolutely convinced that that was the truth.
Myself?
Yes.
Yes. When I first arrived here, and actually when a number of executives, and a lot of people are new, a lot of this was dormant. The police had said there's no reason for opening an investigation, and they repeated that assertion a number of times. The PCC had said we're satisfied, the Press Complaints Commission, we're satisfied with all of those things, and that was the environment we were in. Just about 2 years ago, some additional things emerged around the Gordon-Taylor settlement, which was that year, and going forward. And at that point, we started to look at all of this again. And that's when we really embarked on a very thorough process. I mean, today, we have a sort of standards and practices group in the company of senior executives that are provided with oversight from our global board at an independent director and an executive director level. We have US and UK senior independent counsel overseeing that process of discovery and of cooperation with the police to really try to come to grips with these practices and not just make sure that our disclosure and our transparency with respect to these investigations is complete, but also that we can make sure that we put things right and that they don't happen again.
But one final thing on this. You didn't look at the amount of money that had been paid out and think, how is it possible that only 2 people knew about that? That this was a practice confined to just a tiny section of the newsroom? Alarm bells didn't ring when you saw the money that you've been paying over years?
At that point, the investigations that the police had conducted in cooperation with us and others, remember, 2 people had gone to jail, the editor had resigned. This was a matter that it was believed was a completed matter. And those are the assertions that independent third-party investigators, the police, actually and the PCC actually said as well. So until the new things emerged, that was really the catalyst for starting a whole new process that the company has been very thorough about. And I know it feels like it's taken a long time, but these are very serious matters that we take very, very seriously at a global level and at a personal level as well. So they do take time. There's criminal issues involved. There's the police involved. And there are real human beings involved as well that have allegations made against them that need to be proved or not proved and so on and so forth. These things have taken time, but we've reached a point now where, I'm confident in being able to say, that this practice was certainly enough to breach the trust of our readers. And at that point, you have to take responsibility and actually move the thing forward. And that's what we're doing today. And it's a matter of great regret.
You're confident it was just the News of the World, not the Sun?
Yes. I mean, you should know that, and I think you do, that there are these inquiries, and now these public inquiries that are going to happen that we welcomed yesterday when they were talked about at Prime Minister Questions, are into practices across the whole industry. So not just News International, but also at other newspaper groups and practices around journalism, as well as police practices across the industry.
Well, I was going to say,
our focus has been around processes internally in all of our papers, right? But in particular at the News of the World, where we really have had, you know, where we've been able to discover quite a lot.
There's a couple of questions there. One, do you think your newspaper group has taken the flak for a Fleet Street-wide practice? And two, in that question, are you really confident that this isn't a problem that's not going to spread to other newspapers in your group?
I think, to your first question, is this something that the News of the World is taking the pain for the rest of the industry? These are industry-wide inquiries, and I think you will see both an industry-wide process with the police, and these criminal investigations are industry-wide, and in fact, you know, some of the arrests that have been made are nothing to do with the News of the World recently, but also the judicial inquiry, or however it ends up being set up, that we welcomed to bring there, are industry-wide. And I think that's really a question for the industry, for other papers, for other people to really, you know, come to grips with, and it's really for them in terms of their practices and how they do it. And as far as News International is concerned, we are absolutely committed and determined to do the right thing here.
But you're confident that this was not a problem at the Sun. That's what I'm just focusing on. You're confident that you've rooted this out and you're sure where it all happened, and that's that.
At this point, yes. I mean, we are very confident, and also, you know, I can look at these newsrooms and how they operate today, and I'm very confident we are very focused on the highest standards of ethics, the highest standards of just kind of common sense and good behavior, and actually treating our people, the subjects, as well as our readers with, you know, with respect.
Last few things. One of the problems that a lot of your critics have is they say, you run a newspaper group that regularly says Cabinet Minister Urs must take responsibility, resigns. You still have a chief executive, and this is repeatedly brought up in Parliament yesterday, who was there when a lot of these things were happening, was editor of the News of the World when some of the worst abuses were happening. You know, you say she didn't know about it, but she was there. A lot of people say, surely somebody must take responsibility.
There are some allegations that have been made about that, and I think around her editorship, but I think we're far from, you know, the bulk of all of this activity in terms of what we know, so I want to be very clear about that. But also, I'm convinced that Rebekah Brooks's leadership of the company is the right thing. She's doing the right thing for the company. It's her leadership that has really gotten to grips with this whole period in the company's history. And the committees or the group of people...
of her going, just to be clear about that.
No. I mean, this is, her leadership is actually crucial right now, and it's actually what's been moving a lot of this forward. And I think has been, it's absolutely doing the right thing. And that's what we want to do. We want to, let me repeat this, we want to do the right thing, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that this company, and in these titles, that we live up to the journalistic ethics that we believe in as a company. And that's something that, I know by her actions and by the company's actions, we're showing.
Lastly, some people are saying that the B-Sky B takeover should now be stopped. Your critics are saying that. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, there's a consultation that's currently underway, and it's to do with Sky News and with the spinning off of Sky News to address.
But do you think it's inevitable to
address the plurality issue that was identified by the independent regulator and the Office of Fair Trading? That consultation is going to close tomorrow, and I think it's really in the hands of the Secretary of State about how he deals with the submissions that he's received in that consultation and how they want to move forward. And that's the last time we had that, it does take time for them to deal with those things, but that timetable is in the Secretary of State's hands.
James Murdoch, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.